And yep, that is a perfect 90 degrees. Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and I'm out doing the school run in my 1977 Jaguar XJ12, and as of just a couple weeks ago, this car was off the road for about 3 years, and now I've been driving it for a bit, and there are a couple of small issues. One of them we're not going to sort out today, or most of them we're not going to sort today, but we're going to try and do something about the weird little hesitation. The other weird noise I'm not liking is speedo cable has gotten a little bit noisy, so we can get out and lubricate that or replace it. But really what happens is the car idles fantastic and it runs at high speed really well. But when you just want to crack the throttle a little bit, it bogs down. So let me slow down here and see if I can just demonstrate that. So let me see. I'm pulling away, let's say, from a junction or something, and notice that, and the more I give it, you know, if I floor it, it runs super well, but it's just that tiny bit in the beginning. So my plan is when I get back, we'll put this in the workshop, and I'm going to go out later tonight and try and figure out what's going on. I have a couple of theories. When this car was off the road, I also used it as a little bit of, guinea pig's the wrong word, but I used it as teaching material while making some videos about tuning V12s and some other things. And in some of those videos, I also showed the improper way of doing some things. So I'm wondering if the throttle bodies are not balanced anymore, if I messed with that somehow when I was trying to show how to set them. So that is sort of what I'm wondering, because yeah, what I'm experiencing. So right now, I mean, it's not pulling at all. I have just barely sort of off throttle, but floor it, or not floor it, but you know, halfway down, it runs just fine. So it's either something like that. The only other small things that I have changed while it's been off the road is I replaced the trigger board, which sends a signal to the ECU of the engine RPM. I replaced the old style one with a more modern one. So that is really the only things I've done. But I'm going to continue on the school run. I got one kid in the back. I'm picking up the other one. And I'll come back home. I'll put this thing in the workshop. And then let's see if we can figure out what's going on. In the workshop, it's all cooled down. And we're going to start with, like I said, just the butterflies, because I know I messed with things in that video showing how to tune this, and I don't remember if I put everything back correctly afterwards, because then this car was stored for another 2 years, and yeah, don't remember. I just started up every now and then to move it around, so it idles really well. But yeah, and it pulls well further down the rev range. One thing I have tested, we can show that later, is there is a plate down here which adds extra enrichment when you open up the throttle. And one way to check that it works is just put the ignition on, and then there's the sliders you move. You should hear it ticks from the injectors as they get extra pulses. I'm hearing those ticks, so that seems to be working. And if I disconnect it, it really does bog down and not work very well. But they were not working when I got the car close to 10 years ago. So I've been through and cleaned that once, but it's been standing. So maybe there's oxidation in there. But we'll start with this. I'll remove these bolts here, move this outside, get the air filter houses out. We get the feeler gauges. We'll have a look at that. If that's not the case, we'll probably move on to fuel pressure and just make sure we don't have any leaky injectors, and go from there. Got the throttle disconnected here. So now they're against the stops and I can check them. I use 2 feeler gauges, the correct size and one that is a size bigger. And this is 0.05 millimeters, the correct size, or 2/1000ths of an inch. And this is 0.1 millimeters, or about 4/1000ths of an inch. So it's quite simple. Try and do it one-handed. I've already made a couple of videos on this, but just open up the throttle like that, put that in there, and well, that goes in no problem. And actually the thicker one I can just barely force in there, so I'd say they're a little bit too open. this one, but I mean, it's very, very little. And yeah, I can get in the smaller one, and I can barely get in the big one. So they're even at least, but they're a little bit too open. Let's have a look at the linkage. So what I wanted to see is, I felt that this is a little bent on the other side. And yeah, it looks like, it's kind of dark there, but it looks like that is supposed to be about 90 degrees. I'm wondering if maybe when I replaced the battery, or when I had this thing sitting, it didn't have a battery, so I always put a battery in it when I was just moving it. If I got caught on this, yeah, that is not 90 degrees. Hard to know exactly if that's supposed to be 90 degrees or not, but I think so. It's pretty much 90 over there, but down in the corner we have an XJS. Let's have a look at that one and just double check. And yep, that is a perfect 90 degrees on both sides. I checked those out as well, so that's not an issue. Here's a good thing: if your throttle bushes are worn out, get these. Jonas, the drag improver, he makes them. I think they're Teflon or something, and they're absolutely fantastic. I got a set there going on my XJS as well. So that could definitely be an issue, because if that is bent, that will change the geometry here, and that will probably mean that it opens more on that side and a little bit less on this side. So even if these are set correctly, the throttle blades will not open correctly. So that's probably it. I probably just got caught on a battery or something. So let me get a pair of like some sort of tool, and we'll try and bend this back 90 degrees. Got some pliers here. Let's see if we can do it. It's quite tight with the space here. There we go. I'm happy with that. I've decided to adjust these correctly, even though they were perfectly even, so I don't think that that had anything to do with the way it ran, but they of course should be adjusted correctly. Like I said, already a video on this, you can check. There's a video series on tuning a V12. Lots of good things on there, but you just loosen the left nut, and then we're going to take the feeler gauge and we're going to loosen that a bit. Basically what I'm looking for is that when this is on the stop, there should be some drag on here on the correct one, and if I put in the one size bigger, when I pull it out, I can see that it just moves a tiny bit back to the stop. So maybe just a smidge more. And also double check on the top as well, so don't just do the bottom. I think we're really happy with that one. I'll tighten this up, do the same thing on the other side, and I think since we have the car in here, it's cooled down and everything. Let's just check the fuel pressure. It's been sitting for a while, and just make sure that nothing is wrong with that. Before we do fuel pressures, I just want to check one more thing. So I've hooked these back up, and I just jammed a screwdriver in between there, and that represents very light throttle openings. And I'm just using a tape measure. I mean, it's not that precise. All I'm doing is, it's hard to show, but I'm measuring from the throttle disc to the edge out here. Doesn't matter where you measure to, just as long as you do the same on both sides. So let me, there we go. And let me see. There we go. And that is just about 21 millimeters. Let me do the same thing on this side. About 21 millimeters as well. Oh yeah, 21 millimeters. So I'm happy that all of that seems to be working. But while we have it in here, let's check the fuel pressure. Checking fuel pressure is something I've shown before as well. What I have here is a fuel pressure just gauge tester. Of course, it doesn't have any adapters because there's no way you just plug in. But the easiest thing to do is to remove one of the feed lines for the cold start injectors. And then I've made this little fitting. There's a fuel hose and a quick release that goes onto there. So let's see. Car hasn't run for over a day, so I don't think there should be that much fuel pressure in here, and everything is cold anyways. So we're going to open this up. If the car has been run recently, you can disconnect the relay for the fuel pump, start it up, and it'll use the last amount of fuel. But just get a pair of pliers for that. There we go. Now that should be loose. You can see a little bit of wetness, but hopefully not too bad. Yeah, and just a drop or so. Now we just take this one instead, push that onto there, tighten everything down. And what we're looking for is, it's about 2 bars, 30 psi there, but I think the manual says about 29 plus or minus 1 psi if I remember correctly, but I'll double check that. Now we're just going to lay out this whole thing. Okay, that is securely on there. I'm going to hook up the battery, then we will prime the fuel system a bit, see what this goes up to, see what holds, and we'll fire it up as well and see what the pressure is. Let's first check if we have any leaks. So just going to prime the fuel system a couple times. 1. We'll do 5 because of her fuel returning to the tank. And make sure that there are no leaks anywhere. And I am seeing about 22 psi. You're not going to get full fuel pressure from just priming. Okay. Now I'm not really seeing any major leaks anywhere. So let's open the garage door and fire it up. And this goes without saying, of course, I have fire extinguishers nearby. I always have them, both in the car and in the workshop. Fuel pressure's a little low. a little bit on the low side, I'd say. That's weird. Because everything was set and checked not that long ago. And then it just sat. That's very weird. But we'll grab this paper towel here. I just want to reset the gauge. So we'll bleed it out. Okay, maybe I have a gauge issue. It's bleeding down slowly. I've been using this gauge for years for both fuel and oil. It has worked well, but don't know why it's taking a long time to go down. I zeroed out the gauge, has some oil left in the lines. The last time I used it, I checked the oil pressure on XJ6, and I think that was just messing with the results. So I got all of that out of the lines, and we are reading pretty much bang on 2. It's not running correctly because I don't have the temperature sensor hooked up, so it's running a little bit rich. Doesn't matter. But fuel pressure is good. We'll shut it down, and I'm gonna let it sit, go do something else, come back, and let's see that hasn't fallen too much. It's 40 minutes later, and we don't have a pressure drop. So that's perfect. No leaks anywhere. The correct pressure. So that's a good thing. I will take this apart, put it all back together, air filters back on, and let's see how it runs then. Rev it a little bit, see how it feels, possibly go for a test drive if it feels good. Otherwise, we'll continue investigating things. It's all back together. The one thing I am going to do is just raise the idle a tiny bit, just because I did close the throttle bodies a little bit. Let's see if it fires up. And alright. Yep, we still have the exhaust leak, but that's going to get fixed. It's really only there when cold, and it goes away. But I have all new stuff we're going to put on there a little bit later. But try just revving it a little bit. That seems good. Seems pretty good there as well. I'm just going to show you guys what I mean by the ticking of the injectors. So these are the ticks I mean. I hope you can hear that. So that is extra enrichment while I fire it up. So it's going to probably be a little bit flooded right now. So I'll just give it a bit of throttle. Things seem to be pretty good, but let's pull it outside and just go for a brief test drive. Just pulled around the house and actually already felt a little bit better. It was always worse when it's cold, and we're still just moved off the stop for the temperature needle. So let's just start. It was only there when driving gentle, so still doing it a little bit, I think. But let's try, you know, just driving it a little bit now, and then there's a junction right up here. I'll stop there, pretend that there's a stop sign, and then it will just pull away gently, sort of see what it does. Okay. Coming up here to that little junction, and slow down. Once again, the idle is dead smooth. I can't even feel the engine running, and pull away. I mean, I'm pulling away like the slowest you can right now. I'm doing 10 kilometers an hour. And if I push it, yeah. And I mean, I'm not pushing the throttle down very much at all. That was like a fourth of the way. Now we're up to the speed limit. So I'm not sure if it's so hard to tell, but I do think it is fixed actually. I mean, we're not even up to temperature yet, so if we have some slight hesitation when it's cold, I'm completely fine with that. I mean, we're talking almost 50-year-old fuel injection here. But slow down here. Alright, now it's not doing it. Now I just put my foot down a little bit and I just kept it at the exact same spot. And we are accelerating very slowly. We're at 35 kilometers an hour. Already in a second at like 10 kilometers an hour. That's how little I'm accelerating. And now we are at 50 kilometers an hour. And I'd say that was maybe 10% throttle. So you see, like, if it kicks down, everything like that just works as it should. But yeah, it's a weird thing. Continue on this road just a little bit up here. We're just at thermostats opened up now, so not saying the engine is fully warmed up or anything. However, the fuel injections should be warmed up now, and that's one thing. A lot of things is new on this car. So we got the fuel pressure regulators, injectors have been gone through, and they all seem to be working well. You saw there were no leaks at the moment, and it does run really well at high RPM. The temperature sensor for the ECU, that is new, and a lot of other things are new. I did double check the timing, and I did that right before taking this thing for the MOT. I just want to make sure nothing was wrong with that, because I remember I had the distributor out and things. But okay, but yeah, it's running good now. I can feel it, because before I couldn't do this, so I'm like idling or like coasting, you know, and giving it some throttle, and it would bog down before, and now it is pulling away pretty cleanly. The only thing I haven't touched, but I should be the same length, is I haven't touched the throttle rods yet, because I think I have set those before, but I could be wrong. Just by wiggling them, it felt like the right one is a tiny bit tighter than the left one, but that could sort of be the last thing. Just maybe loosen the right one a tiny bit. But other than that, I think it's going well. So I'm going to pretend right now like I'm slowing down for, you know, a speed bump or something. So I'm doing 30 kilometers an hour here, and then I just want to accelerate up to 50. And it's doing that very nicely. It did not do this before. So I think we may have fixed it. Could have been as simple as just a bent little bracket, and you know, adjusting the throttle bias down a little bit, but that would not really have been that much of an issue, because they were perfectly even, a little bit too open, but at least now they're doing well. So now I'm going to pull away from this corner. I think it's as close to fixed I can feel at the moment. I mean, we are just idling around here, but that was the issue. It pulled very well on the highway and all of that. It was just this sort of running around town. Still have a couple of small issues left. You know, the tach isn't working. I do not exactly know what's going on, and the tach stopped working before I did a lot of work to the car. It was one of the last drives of the car. The tach was flickering a little bit, and I knocked on the tach. It came back to life, and then when it sat a bit, it was dead. I have replaced the trigger board and done other things after that, and still the tach is dead. So I don't think the trigger board has affected that, and right now I'm pulling. This thing's running really nicely. So what I'm going to do in a future video, we'll take the tach out of the XJ6, put that in here, see if it works. And if that doesn't it could be, of course it could be like a break in the cable from here, but that, if I remember correctly, I have checked with a multimeter and that is working. I've also checked the ballast resistor. There is a procedure in the manual, checked the resistance for that, and that seems to be fine. However, that could be broken because that's really the only original part of this ignition system. However, they're extremely expensive. So what I want to do then, if I find out that the tach is actually working, because I can put this tach in the XJ6 and see if it works. So if I find out that's working and the cable's fine, then we could rob the ballast resistor from my 1975 XJS when that comes back, because everything is working on that, the tach and all that. See if that's the issue, and if that is, we can order a new one, because I think they're like $80 or $100, so I'm not going to order one if I don't need it. But I do miss a tach, so right now I've just been setting idle sort of by feel. But let's see how things are with a load. I'm going to put the AC on and just see if it's still running as nicely as it should. And I've been using it a bit now. I've less than a quarter of a tank on that side, and that was full, and that's what I've been driving on all the time, with the fuel injection cleaner in it. And then I have regular gas on the other side, about half a tank that I haven't used yet. So I have used it a little bit, but yeah, this is probably getting a little bit boring for you guys just watching me drive here, but that's the nature of road testing. You gotta feel, but yeah, it's definitely, now it's running well. So that is one thing I want to add to my list of how to tune a Jag V12. Check that all the brackets and things haven't gotten bent by mistake, because especially when you take a battery out or something, it's very easy to get caught on something. It's a big heavy battery, so that's probably what I did. I'm guessing that my shirt or something got caught when I took the battery out, and that was enough to really mess with the balance of it. On an HE, it probably wouldn't have been that much of an issue, just because they have a bigger balance pipe in the back to balance both the intakes. Pre-HE has a very small balance pipe, and it is very important for everything to be set correctly on a pre-HE. But let's do this one last try. Let's just slow down here, and we have a little hill here, and we are accelerating up to 50 and a little bit more. Anyways, I hope that you guys like this follow along of trying to find a small little issue. And this one is issues that many people just could have not cared about. It's an old car, but I want it to run exactly as it should. So I'm very happy it seems to be sorted. I'm going to continue driving this thing, and I said we're doing something about the tach, we're doing something about the exhaust. The reason I'm not touching the exhaust yet is because if I snap something or something in the manifolds, I want my XJS to be here at home, because I'm removing the intakes or the manifolds on that one and putting tubular on, and those are in really good condition on that car with no leaks or cracks or anything. So if it ends up being a crack here, I want that car home to be able to rob parts from it. So that is why, and it goes away once it's warmed up, so it's not that big of a deal. It did pass inspection with it. Anyways, if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.